Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be providing more information in regards to California Assembly Bill 1824 since my first video on this topic, and how it modified the enforcement actions for vehicle code violations for exhaust noise or modified exhaust for vehicles registered here in California. So with that, I'll provide the bail information, which shows the various vehicle code sections and how the base fines and the total fines will be, which is available to everyone. I'll try to point out some of the notes that are related to that as well, so I'll have that in the video. And I'll provide some additional information with regard to the testing procedure, which I showed you in my first video relating to my Chevy SS sedan, what the proper RPM limits are. There's some misinformation going out there. First, I was told it was based on horsepower rating, where 3/4 of that was wherever the 3/4 maximum horsepower was. And if you actually read the actual testing procedure, it's 3/4 of the maximum RPM. So we'll go through that. But keep in mind, I am not a lawyer. I'm not pretending to be a lawyer. You shouldn't use this as a basis of your legal representation. Make sure you seek out any properly qualified legal representative here in California if you decide to fight this in court and need such a representation. But I hope to provide you information so you understand the situation before you get the ticket, and hopefully you can avoid getting a ticket with this information. So with that, we'll go through the introduction, information disclaimer, and we'll start talking about it. Please review the automotive information, repair, and modification guidelines on this screen. Seek the advice of a repair professional if you're unsure how to perform any repair or modification safely and correctly. All repairs and modifications are performed at your own risk. The modifications enacted by California Assembly Bill 1824 that pertain to the vehicle code exhaust laws are in Section 4. There are multiple sections in this bill that do not apply to vehicle code, but Section 4 does. It modifies vehicle code Section 40610, subdivision B. It adds item number 4, which states the violation cited is of subdivision A of Section 27150 or subdivision A of Section 27151. Those two vehicle code sections relate to the exhaust systems on your vehicle. We'll take a look at those in just a moment. And then subdivision C of this 40610, it states if any of the conditions set forth in subdivision B exist, the procedures specified in this section or section 40522 are inapplicable, and the officer may take other appropriate enforcement action. So if 27150 or 27151 vehicle codes have been violated, that means they can take appropriate action to get it cited or corrected. So we'll take a look now at what those two are. Those particular vehicle codes haven't changed, but we want to see what those apply to, because they're now in the category no longer of a fix-it ticket, but basically as a non-correctable, basically a citation that you must take some action on and potentially pay fines on. So let's take a look at those two vehicle codes now. Here's a listing of the content of California Vehicle Code sections 27150 and 27151 that were mentioned in the modified 40610 vehicle code as amended by Assembly Bill 1824. And basically 27150 defines what vehicles must have for an exhaust system. Subdivision A states every motor vehicle subject to registration shall at all times be equipped with an adequate muffler in constant operation and properly maintained to prevent any excessive or unusual noise, and no muffler exhaust system shall be equipped with a cutout, bypass, or similar device. Now, this has been this way for quite a period of time, so the modification enacted by AB 1824 didn't change this. This was true all along. The subdivisions B and C go into what exceptions might apply to subdivision A, and it basically offer highway motor vehicles have some exceptions, and then subdivision C talks about vehicles being used in off-highway organized racing events. So there's some caveats for those particular categories of vehicle uses. Then 27151, subdivision A, no person shall modify the exhaust system of a motor vehicle in a manner which will amplify or increase the noise emitted by the motor of the vehicles so that the vehicle is not in compliance with the provisions of section 27150 or exceeds the noise limits established by the type of vehicle in Article 2.5 commencing with section 27200. No person shall operate a motor vehicle with an exhaust system so modified. And then subdivision B, for the purposes of exhaust systems installed in motor vehicles with the manufacturer's gross vehicle weight rating of less than 6,000 pounds, not the weight of the vehicle, the gross vehicle weight rating. Keep that in mind. Other than motorcycles, a sound level of 95 dBA or less when tested in accordance to the Society of Automotive Engineers Standard J1169, May 1998. Complies with this section. Motor vehicle exhaust systems or parts thereof include, but are not limited to, non-original exhaust equipment. So in general, there's nothing prohibiting you from modifying your exhaust system as long as it complies with the noise limits and you're not equipping it with a cutout, bypass, or similar device. The exhaust system muffler and the muffler must be in use at all times, and those type of devices will potentially cut out the muffler, causing it to produce higher limits of noises. So let's go back and take a look at now the 27200 and subdivision A of that. The Department of Motor Vehicles shall not register on a dealer's report of sale a new motor vehicle except for an off-road or off-highway motor vehicle subject to identification as provided in Division 16.5, commencing with Section 38,000, which provides a maximum noise exceeding the applicable noise limit at a distance of 50 feet from the center line of travel under test procedures established by the Department of California Highway Patrol. So here's one conflict. In the previous vehicle codes we looked at, it talks about a particular SAE test, and then here we're talking a test at 50 feet. So there's one thing that's a little bit different. So there's a test procedure defined, the California Code of Regulations 1036. We'll take a look at it a little bit later, which has the general testing procedure identified for this test, and these references to the SAE test. There's an J1169, and on the Bureau of Automotive Repair website, it talks about a J1492. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there, but the general test procedure is, I believe, to understand well enough to present it in the video, so we'll do that a little bit later in the video. Now, for vehicles that have stock exhaust, like auto manufacturers, when they sell a new vehicle in California, they have to certify the fact that they comply with the vehicle codes here for this particular vehicle code section. So subdivision B, the Department of Motor Vehicles may accept a dealer certificate as proof of compliance with this article. So when the car was first sold as new, it had to have a dealer certificate to prove that it complied with vehicle code 27200. So that in mind, anyone that has a stock exhaust, as long as it's not been modified and it's not received any damage from operation, it should comply. So having a ticket for a stock exhaust, you shouldn't have any real problem with that, but you may still have to go to the state referee to prove that it does comply. But that's some of the ambiguity that I still see as well, that you can't prove to a peace officer necessarily that you've have a car with a stock exhaust. They can't prove or disprove that necessarily on the street. So the fact that it is a stock exhaust, you need to identify that fact when you go for the state referee test. But so let's go back and take a look now at the vehicle code sections that we were talking about before, the 27151, where subdivision B, the purpose of the exhaust system installed in motor vehicles with a manufacturer's gross vehicle weight rating less than 6,000 pounds, other than motorcycles, a sound level of 95 dBA or less when tested. So that is defining the limit according to 27151, which is referenced in the modified vehicle code that we were talking about a little bit earlier. So basically, if your vehicle's on the street, your vehicle has a gross vehicle weight rating, again, not the vehicle weight, but the gross vehicle weight rating for the vehicle under 6,000 pounds. It should basically have an exhaust system that does not produce more than 95 dBA in accordance to the test procedures for the California Code of Regulations 1036 or J1169 or J1492, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. But let's go through. Hopefully that is clear enough to go through the general idea of the Assembly Bill 1824 itself didn't modify 27150, 27151, or 27200. Those are still the same. It just moves 27150 violations of 27150 and 151 to the category of no longer being a fix-it ticket. And with the ability to take an officer to take appropriate enforcement action, they could cite you with one of the vehicle code sections that does have a particular requirement to go to a state referee. So we're going to take a look at the uniform bail procedure or chart for these two particular vehicle codes to see what the fines are, to hopefully clarify and dispel the rumor that everything's $1,000 for these, which they're not. But keep in mind that the uniform bail listing isn't applicable in all counties in California, as I've learned over the past couple of days. So this is just a general reference. You need to check with the county that you were cited in and the court that you'll be appearing before to make sure that you understand the appropriate fee schedule. So now let's take a look at that. On the screen now is the page and notes for the vehicle codes of 27150 and 27151, subdivisions A, which are the items that were modified or made enforceable differently by Assembly Bill 1824. And I'll move the arrow next to the subdivisions here and note the A's in parentheses are the subdivision A's that the previous vehicle code modification was talking about. There are some notes on this page which appear as a capital A or capital B, and then there's some numerical notes as well, and I've taken the other sections of this PDF file and put them on the same image so you could take a look at those. But capital A note, the violation cited on the notice to appear is not eligible for correction. So an A is a non-correctable, and then a B basically is eligible for correction. And then the numerical notes, you'll notice down at the bottom that number 65 says that vehicle code 27150.2 requires that a station providing referee functions under HNS 44036 only issue a certificate of compliance for vehicular exhaust systems for vehicles that have received a citation for violation vehicle code 27150 or vehicle code 27151. So those are the fee schedules that are applicable to the various vehicle codes, so make sure you check your citation. Now, I've heard that this fee schedule doesn't necessarily apply to all counties in the state, so it's up to you to confirm that you have the appropriate fee schedule for your county or where the citation was issued. Now, you can see that the base fine, I'll move the arrows along the base fines there. They're not $1,000 for the ones that you can get cited for on your vehicle, unless you do some really bizarre things, or if you basically, they're going after the companies that install whistle tip exhaust systems. You can see that the base fine for that for 27150.3 is $1,000, and the state fee on top of there's additive fees where you can go over $4,000. But the base fee for 27150 subdivision A is $25, and then with the additional fees, it can add up to a total of $197. For 27151 subdivision A, modification of exhaust systems prohibited. Base fee is $25, and then with the additional fees, it's a total of $193. So it's not $1,000 as people have been scaring people with on the internet, but you need to look at the actual citation that you've been issued and the vehicle code that's been noted on the citation, so you can look it up and confirm again with the local county if there's any different fees other than this one that applies generally throughout the state. So with that, let's move on to the actual testing procedure, and you'll see how the test is performed if you do have to go to a state referee. So let's take a look at that now. California Code of Regulations 1036 is the test procedure, which is synchronized to the best of my knowledge at this point with SAE 1169 and SAE 1492 to identify the proper placement of the decibel meter microphone to make sure that it's no closer than 8 inches to the ground. It is at least 8 inches from the back of the vehicle, and if the exhaust pipes are underneath the vehicle, and that it's 20 inches from the tip of the exhaust tip that's coming out of the back of the vehicle, and at a 45-degree angle, plus or minus 10 degrees. So these various photographs here that I've taken from the Code of Regulations 1036 show you where the decibel meter microphone is to be placed on those various conditions. This is to make sure that the shop that it's being tested in doesn't induce any undue echoing, such as a pit underneath the vehicle or there's a door nearby. So this is to make sure it's a fair test and that the placement is appropriate. Now, these apply to vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating of under 6,000 pounds. Vehicles with GVWR over 6,000 and over, this does not apply to. So let's go ahead and take a look at the various placements here, and then once we're done with that, we'll move to what the test procedure is itself. Now we're taking a look at section C and D of the California Code of Regulations 1036. C talks about the engine operation, and D talks about the exhaust sound level measurement. C, of course, the engine should be at normal operating temperature, transmission in neutral, and it also talks about running the engine at 3/4 of the maximum RPM rating, assuming that the maximum RPM rating is identified for that particular vehicle. And there's some steady state engine speeds for before 1972 vehicles if it's unknown what the maximum RPMs for that vehicle are. I do have one note to put here. The certain vehicles might have a problem running at that particular RPM in neutral. I know I owned a Ford Thunderbird that had a rev limiter. When it was in park or neutral, you couldn't rev it over, I think it was 2,500 or 3,000. So depending what the maximum RPM for the engine is, the ECU may not allow it to be revved to that 3/4 of maximum RPM. Be interested to know how state referees are going to handle that. Then section D talks about the measurement and basically disregarding any unrelated peaks like extraneous noise that might come from the shop area where the test is being performed. It needs to be the appropriate distance from the vehicle or the exhaust tips, and make sure it's done correctly and is applied to for vehicles that are under 6,000 gross vehicle weight ratings. And then 1 and 2 talk about the 95 dBA limit. And then there's some exceptions in number 2 there that talk about vehicles manufactured after 1967 may exceed 95 if the replacement parts are no louder than the original equipment or factory duplicate systems. So there are again some gray area here. I'd be interested to know how state referees are going to handle that exactly, because you need to know what the original equipment produced. It could be a little challenging, especially with older vehicles, finding what the original equipment produced. And if you have aftermarket exhaust parts on your vehicle, and in California, if there are no CARB executive order stickers or markings on them to state that they were already tested by the California Air Resources Board, that could be another challenge to the state referees. So at least this identifies the test procedure and what you should expect for it to be run. And then if you have a decibel meter of your own, you can use the information in this section and the previous section to place it in the correct place to get a good idea, at least what your vehicle is doing. It may not replicate exactly what the state referee produces in their test, but at least you have a good idea. So let's move on to the next section of what should you do when you do get a ticket. So you've received the citation, and you believe you have to go to a state referee for a test. So in that case, here's a bunch of information that I obtained mainly from the California Bureau of Automotive Repair, the BAR website. Some of it's sourced from a SEMA article as well. But the main objective here is to identify the general flow of what you need to do when you receive the citation that requires a state referee inspection of your exhaust system. So you set up an appointment with the state referee by calling the scheduling center, and that's identified in this screen as well. But you can't schedule an appointment for a vehicle that doesn't have a citation. So you can't do a preemptive certificate of compliance to obtain that from the referee if you don't have a ticket already. So keep that in mind. Then the referee, when you arrive, will perform the test per the general regulations and set up procedures that we talked about earlier in the video. And then if your vehicle passes and is in compliance with the 95 decibel limit, or if it's different for your make and model, as we saw, there are some gray areas there based on older vehicles and original equipment limits. But if it complies, they'll issue a certificate of compliance, and then you take that to the court. And if it's one of the vehicle code violations on your citation that can be dismissed by the court, then hopefully that at least will stop it at that point. But the overall process may not be free. So you may be able to get it dismissed and have the ticket fees eliminated, but the test itself from the state referee is still something you have to deal with, the potential repairs, and then any court costs, because appearance in court may be a chargeable fee of some sort as well. It may vary per county, per district. it could vary wherever you're at within the state. Just keep in mind this may not be a totally free thing to get your citation dismissed. It's best to check with the court and the agency that issued the ticket if there's any questions you have about this, to make sure you understand that you truly need to perform a state referee inspection of your exhaust system. And if you do, contact the state referee scheduling center, get that set up and get it hopefully tested and is found to be compliant. And make sure that you document everything that you are doing in this, have a proper documentation, and perform the test in a timely manner. Usually there's a 30 or some number of day limit on getting the test performed and getting it back in. If it's not in compliance, get it into compliance and getting it back to the court so that you can have the ticket dealt with them. So with that, hopefully this has been informative to you. There's still a lot of stuff here. You might want to pause on a couple of different sections in this just to read through the items. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not pretending to be a lawyer. I've tried to go through and gather all the information, and hopefully this has been helpful to you. Hopefully you found that information helpful to you in understanding the topic a little better here in California. I again have to stress, if you do want to fight this in a court situation, make sure you obtain the appropriate legal advice from a person that's actually a lawyer, preferably a lawyer that's based in the county that you receive the citation. Make sure they're fully aware of any variations to the fines that might apply given that county, because the fee schedule that I showed you is the general one for the state, but not all counties necessarily comply with that. There might be additional fees not listed there for your particular county where the citation was issued. Hopefully the testing procedure is fairly straightforward. You can always pre-test the vehicle yourself, but you cannot preemptively go to the state referee and have your vehicle tested to say, I've got a certificate. So keep that in mind. And of course, a couple more summary things. Just drive sensibly. That usually doesn't make your car produce a lot of excess noise. And if you are pulled over, be nice, be courteous, and hopefully your citation is one of the ones that doesn't send you to the state referee. If you liked the video and found it informative, hit that like button. The like button does mean the video will rank higher. That would be truly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I hope to provide information like this going forward on this topic and other ones in the future. And thanks for checking out my channel. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, smash that like button. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Please follow Retro Car Guy 530 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for taking the time to visit the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.